Have you ever noticed that the neighborhoods you dream about living in change as you go through different stages of life? When I was younger, I probably would have picked something completely different than what I'm about to share with you today. But now that I'm an empty nester and my kids are grown and out of the house, my priorities look a lot different than they did 20 years ago. These days, I'm thinking less about school districts and a lot more about things like, can I walk to grab a great cup of coffee? Where am I going to take my morning walk? Can I meet friends for dinner without having to drive 30 minutes? And if family comes to visit, are there fun things nearby? I've also realized I'm no longer looking for the biggest house I can afford. I'm looking for the best life I can create around it. Hi, my name's Alyssa and I'm a local resident and realtor to Tampa, and I absolutely love sharing with you about this city and all the amazing things it has to offer for both those of you who already live here and for those of you still trying to decide whether or not Tampa is your next move. If you found this fun and helpful, be sure to hit the bell so you get notified when I post new videos. And if you are thinking about making the move to Tampa, click the link below to download my relocation guide or set up a time for us to talk one-on-one. As a realtor here in Tampa, I spend a lot of time exploring different neighborhoods, and people ask me all the time, if it were you, where would you live? So today, I'm answering that question. These aren't necessarily the most expensive or the trendiest neighborhoods. They're simply the 5 places I would personally choose if I were buying in Tampa today at this time in my life. And if you're thinking about downsizing, upgrading, buying a second home, or relocating to Tampa, I think these neighborhoods deserve a spot on your list. One thing you'll notice is that I'm not going to spend much time talking about square footage, schools, or home prices. There are plenty of videos that do that. Instead, I want to show you what life actually looks like in each of these neighborhoods, because I think at this stage of life, we're buying a lifestyle just as much as we're buying a house. So let's jump in. If you followed me for a while, this first one probably won't surprise you. I absolutely love Seminole Heights. It has character, personality, history, charm, and it feels authentic. Here you'll find historic bungalows, beautifully restored craftsman homes, mature oak trees, front porches where people sit outside, and streets where every house feels a little different. But the homes aren't even my favorite part. The reason I love Seminole Heights is because of what happens outside your front door. If this were my neighborhood, my perfect Saturday would probably start at Spatty's Coffee. I'd grab an iced coffee and spend a little time just walking the neighborhood. One of my favorite things to do here is admire the homes. There are so many unique architectural styles, beautiful landscaping ideas, and little details you just don't see in newer communities. If I wanted to switch things up, I'd head over to the Lab Coffee. Both have their own personality and both are the kind of places where you can become a regular. After coffee, I'd probably wander through a few local shops. Seminole Heights has this creative energy that I really enjoy. You'll find vintage stores, locally owned boutiques, antique shops, and little businesses that make it feel like you're discovering something new every time you visit. By lunchtime, I'd probably head to one of the local pizza spots because if you know anything about me, I love pizza and I could eat it every day of my life. My favorite is Cappy's Pizza, or maybe if I wanted to keep it simple, I'd grab a slice from Lee's Grocery, which somehow manages to be a neighborhood market, bottle shop, and one of the best places to grab pizza in the area. There are so many great places to eat in Seminole Heights, but one place in particular comes to mind that is a Seminole Heights staple. That's the Rooster and the Till. This is the kind of place that you go to for special occasions or when friends come to town and you want to show them one of Tampa's best restaurants. It's one of those places that's consistently excellent, and their reviews on Google speak for itself. This is what I really love about Seminole Heights. It's not flashy and it's not trying to be something it isn't. Now, I also want to be realistic because this neighborhood isn't for everyone. If you're looking for brand new construction, gated communities, or neighborhoods where every home looks the same, then Seminole Heights probably isn't going to be your style. Some streets are beautifully renovated while others are still transitioning. That's just part of the story here. But if you're someone who values a character over cookie cutter and experiences over perfection, I think Seminole Heights is one of the coolest places in Tampa to call home. If Seminole Heights is full of historic charm and neighborhood personality, then Tampa Heights feels like its sophisticated next-door neighbor. Tampa Heights has changed dramatically over the last several years, but in a really thoughtful way. It still has its historic roots, but now it's become one of the most exciting places to live if you want to be close to everything without actually living in the middle of downtown Tampa. One of the biggest reasons I choose Tampa Heights is the lifestyle. If this were my neighborhood, I honestly don't think I'd use my car nearly as much on the weekends. My perfect Saturday would probably start with coffee at Buddy Brew Coffee in Heights Public Market and Armature Works. And from there, I'd head over to the Tampa River Walk. I love walking, and this is one of my favorite places in the city to do it. You can walk along the water, people watch, stop and enjoy the views, and before you know it, you've gotten several miles in without it feeling like exercise. For grabbing a casual lunch, I'd probably head over to the Strand Hill Public. I love a good Irish pub, and this one has all the Irish food you love, like fish and chips and shepherd's pie, as well as your typical bar food like burgers and wings. If I wanted to stay along the river and something a little less casual, Eulalie would be another easy choice. I love the atmosphere there, especially if you can grab a table outside. Between the food, the Riverwalk, and the views, it's one of those places that reminds me why I love living in Tampa. Tampa Heights offers the kind of convenience where your life becomes easier because the things you enjoy doing are already nearby. I also love that you're just minutes from Water Street and downtown Tampa, so you can catch a show at the Straz, a concert or hockey game at Benchmark Arena, or ride the Tico streetcar down to Ybor. Now, Tampa Heights isn't for everyone either. If you're looking for a large suburban home with a big backyard, this probably isn't where I'd send you. But if you're someone who's ready to trade some of that maintenance for experiences, walkability, and being connected to everything happening in the city, I think Tampa Heights deserves a very close look. Now let's switch gears a little because my next pick has a completely different feel. If Seminole Heights and Tampa Heights are all about urban living, Westchase is the neighborhood I choose when I want a little more space without giving up the lifestyle I enjoy. I've always liked Westchase, but the older I get, the more I appreciate it. Like I mentioned already, one thing that's become really important to me over the last few years is walking. I genuinely enjoy getting outside, putting on a podcast or audiobook, and getting a few miles in. So when I'm looking at neighborhoods, I'm paying attention to things I never would have noticed years ago. Are there sidewalks? Is it pretty to walk? Can I leave my house and actually enjoy being outside? Westchase checks those boxes. If I lived here, I'd specifically want to be in West Park Village. I love the neotraditional design with front porches instead of garages dominating the front of the homes. You'll see gazebos, pocket parks, swings, tree-lined streets, alley entry garages, and people sitting outside talking to their neighbors. If this were my neighborhood, my Saturday would probably start with a long walk through West Park Village and the surrounding trails. Then I'd stop at the Grind for a Westchase classic or potato bowl if it was breakfast time, or if it was closer to lunch, I'd definitely pick the grown-up grilled cheese sandwich. After breakfast, I'd spend some time walking through Village Market area. That's one of my favorite things about West Park Village. You can park your car, or better yet, leave it at home, and walk to coffee, restaurants, boutiques, salons, fitness studios, and local businesses. It's the kind of convenience I think a lot of people don't realize they'll appreciate until they have it. One thing I think Westchase does really well is balance. It feels suburban, it's quiet, it's beautifully maintained, but it doesn't feel isolated. You're still close to the airport, you're about 30 minutes from downtown Tampa. You can get to Clearwater or Honeymoon Island without feeling like you're driving across the state. For someone who travels, has grown kids, who come to visit, or simply likes having options, that's a huge advantage. And while there are certainly larger homes in Westchase, there are also townhomes and maintenance-free options that make a lot of sense for empty nesters. Westchase gives you those options. To me, this neighborhood is ideal for someone who still wants a suburban lifestyle but doesn't want to sacrifice convenience. It gives you room to breathe without feeling disconnected from everything that makes Tampa such a great place to live. Now, this one is a little bit of a cheat because when I say South Tampa, I'm really talking about several neighborhoods that I absolutely love. I already live in South Tampa and I live in the South of Gandy neighborhood. But if I was making a move and I had to narrow it down, my favorites would be Hyde Park, Davis Islands, Palmacia, and Bayshore Beautiful. Each one has its own personality, but what they all have in common is this: lifestyle. This is where I think so many empty nesters realize they don't need a bigger house anymore. They want a better location. Because here's the thing, if I can walk to dinner, grab coffee, meet friends for drinks, spend the afternoon shopping, and take my daily walk along the water, I'm probably not thinking about how many extra bedrooms I have anymore. I'm thinking more about how much I'm enjoying my life. And that's exactly what South Tampa offers. If I had to pick just one neighborhood where I could fully embrace a walkable lifestyle, Hyde Park would be right at the top of my list. If this were my neighborhood, Saturday would probably start with breakfast at Willa's. I know a lot of people would probably expect me to say Oxford Exchange, but in my opinion, it's a beautiful place and definitely worthy of an Instagram post, but it's a little overrated in my opinion, and I might have people come for me over that, and that's okay. But Willis has a more of a laid-back atmosphere, great food like their avocado toast, and it's one of those places I come back to again and again. From there, I'd wander over to Hyde Park Village. You're not walking through a giant indoor mall, you're walking the sidewalks filled with boutiques, restaurants, and shaded by trees and tons of little spots where you can sit outside with a coffee and just people watch. One of my favorite things to do in the village is visit Posy's flower truck when they're there. I have bought myself flowers from them many times, and it's the most adorable little flower truck. If it's not too hot outside, I take a walk down to Bayshore Boulevard. To me, this is one of Tampa's greatest assets. It's the longest continuous sidewalk in the world at almost 5 uninterrupted miles along the bay, with people walking, cycling, walking their dogs, running, and the views never get old. It's also a part of Bayshore Beautiful, which is lined with beautiful homes and all kinds of high-rise condo buildings that are perfect for people wanting to downsize from a big house with lots of maintenance to a smaller space that is turnkey and maintenance-free. This is the kind of neighborhood you trade yard work for experiences, and I think that's a trade a lot of empty nesters are happy to make. Now, if Hyde Park is somewhat energetic, Davis Islands feels peaceful. I don't know how else to describe it. The minute you drive over the bridge, it almost feels like you've left the city behind. It's quieter, it's slower, and it's incredibly charming. If I lived here, my morning would hands down start with coffee from DI Coffee Bar. Then I take a nice long walk. One thing I love about Davis Islands is that people are actually outside walking their dogs, riding bikes, running, talking with neighbors. And speaking of dogs, one of my favorite things about Davis Islands is the dog beach. If you have a dog, it's such a fun spot to let them run, play in the water, and meet other dogs. As a Frenchie mom myself, I know my boys absolutely love it. Lunch would probably be at Islands Pizza or Anchor Tavern. And if you've never been, there are those neighborhood restaurants where you become a regular. After lunch, I'd probably wander through the village, stop into a couple local shops, then I'd head home. And even though Davis Islands feels like it's further from the city, you're still so close to downtown Tampa. So if friends called and wanted to meet for dinner, it would be such an easy drive. To me, Davis Islands is ideal for someone who wants to simplify without giving up charm. Palmacia has always felt timeless to me. It doesn't need new flashy developments to make it desirable. It's already established where the streets are lined with huge grand oak trees and the homes are so beautiful and full of character. One thing I appreciate about Palmacia is that you're still incredibly close to everything South Tampa has to offer, but it feels a little quieter than Hyde Park or Soho. Some of my favorite places in Palmacia are Gray's for breakfast or brunch and 1983 for dinner and drinks because it's also got an arcade with games, which is perfect for the kid that still lives inside of me. Palmacia is one of those neighborhoods that has a reputation for a reason. Beautiful homes, mature trees, and a location that's hard to beat. It may not have the eclectic personality of Seminole Heights or the walkability of Hyde Park, but if you're looking for a neighborhood that has stood the test of time, Palmacia is hard to overlook. One thing all 4 of these neighborhoods have in common is this: you're buying access. Access to restaurants, coffee shops, walking paths, events, parks, concerts, waterfront views, the Riverwalk, Water Street, and so much more. Those experiences have become part of your everyday life. And to me, that's worth a lot. These neighborhoods aren't just beautiful places to own a home, they're places where I think it's really easy to build a new life. And that's exactly why South Tampa is one of my favorite parts of the city. My last neighborhood might surprise some people. It's not on the water and it's not the trendiest neighborhood in Tampa. You don't hear people talking about it as much as Hyde Park or Water Street. But if you ask me where I genuinely consider living, Carrollwood would absolutely be on my list. I've always had a soft spot for Carrollwood. To me, it's one of those neighborhoods that has aged really well. In Carrollwood, the homes have character, the lots are larger, the streets are quieter, and everything feels settled, and I like that. One thing I love about Carrollwood is that it gives you options. There are beautiful ranch-style homes that have been updated over the years. There are condos if you're looking for less maintenance. There are larger homes if you still want room for kids and grandkids when they come to visit. You don't have to sacrifice comfort just because you're downsizing. If I lived here, my Saturday would probably start with coffee at The Perfect Press. It has such a cozy and homey feel, and I've met friends there plenty of times and completely lost track of time being in conversation. From there, I'd head over to Carrollwood Village Park. If you haven't been, it's one of my favorite parks in Tampa. Beautiful walking trails, boardwalks, a splash pad for when the grandkids come to visit. It also has a dog park and exercise stations. And since walking has become such an important part of my routine, this alone would be a huge selling point for me. There are so many places to pick from when it comes to lunch and dinner. Some of my favorites are Piccolo Buco, Noble Crust, or the Sacred Pepper, which is a Carrollwood favorite. One thing I really appreciate about Carrollwood is that even though it feels quiet and residential, you're still incredibly central. I think that's one of Carrollwood's biggest strengths. It gives you breathing room without making you feel disconnected from the rest of Tampa. For empty nesters especially, I think Carrollwood often gets overlooked. People assume they need to move downtown to simplify their lives, but maybe that's not your version of the next chapter, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think that's exactly why Carrollwood continues to be one of Tampa's most desirable neighborhoods. It's comfortable, it's established, it's convenient, and it has a timeless quality that I don't think will ever go out of style. One thing I've learned after helping people buy and sell homes for so many years is this. Eventually, the conversation becomes less about the house and more about the life you're creating around it. And that's exactly how I came up with this list. These aren't necessarily the best neighborhoods in Tampa. They're the neighborhoods that fit the life I want to live today. Now I'd love to hear from you. If you already live in Tampa, which neighborhood would you choose? And if you're thinking about making the move to Tampa, which one sounds the most like your lifestyle? Leave me a comment below because I really do want to hear from you and I read each and every one of them. And if you're trying to decide which Tampa neighborhood fits your lifestyle best, I'd love to help. Thanks so much for spending a little time with me today. I'll see you on the next video.